I just turned around and I hauled ass out of there. I was done. I wasn't dealing with that.
The hypocrisy of the cult is one of the things that turned me away the quickest.
When I turned my headlights on, it turned and looked at us, and one of the things I remember the most were the eyes were glowing red.
I see an orb of light. It is just circling these steps like it is waiting for me.
And he begins to tell them that he saw a UFO. They're basically like, what are you talking about? That's 7 foot up on a tree, peeking around it, and that's where I saw the top of the muzzle, nose, and the eyes. As soon as I made eye contact with this thing, it felt like death.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first ever Tinfoil Tales Livestream. I'm Brandon. Got a few people that are wanting to come on here tonight and talk about some topics. Looking forward to that. Glad you guys were able to log in here and join me tonight. It's been a last minute kind of thing here. I've got kicked off. It's not really anything that I had planned. It was more or less something I just wanted to attempt, see how it goes. If it does well, then maybe I'll do some more of these here in the future. But how you doing, Tom? Ontario, Canada. Welcome. Anyone out there listening? If you want to be on an episode of Tinfoil Tales that isn't the live stream, you can always send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com, or you can go to tinfoiltales.com in the contact section, whichever it is. You can reach out to me, and we will get you scheduled for a future episode. But for now, I do have someone in the waiting. He's from Founding Lore Fathers podcast. I was going to bring him on here so he can kind of be a guest co-host with me for the night, so I'm not just sitting here flying solo and talking to myself while waiting on other guests to hop on. So if you guys want to welcome Rich to the show, I'm going to bring him on here.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, man. This is a fun little thing you've got going on here.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a last minute thing, but glad you guys were able to, or you and some of the other guests here tonight were able to hop on here and talk with me.
Oh yeah, it's definitely. It should be fun. I know. I'm looking forward to hearing from it, especially when I know you mentioned some possible guests that are showing up. I know you said something about a gentleman who's maybe seen a UFO encounter or two, something like that. And there's a couple different people here. I know I'm looking forward. We don't do a lot of interviews on our show. We mostly just do stories and BS amongst ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Then occasionally we'll have some people on, so it's fun. I like the idea of having guests. It's pretty cool.
For anyone listening, I was a guest on their podcast several months ago, is how we kind of got connected, and Rich just recently did an episode with me that'll come out here after a while about the Amityville Horror. So you guys out there listening, look forward to that one.
Yeah, and you can find us. So it's the I'm 1/3 of the Founding Lore Fathers. We talk about cryptids. We'll talk about some interesting history, and we'll talk about some current topics and stuff like that. We're more humor than anything else. We at least try to be funny. That's a lot harder than it sounds. So we do our best, though. We've got you can find us on Amazon, Spotify, and Apple. For anyone else who's on the non-major, the big three, sorry, but we're there somewhere.
Yeah. I said that when we talked the last time, I'd mentioned that I hadn't been seeing anything pop up on Apple. That's where I get most of my podcasts. So,
oh man, I've had to stay on top of Apple. So Apple's one of those. So we don't have a hosting site. We do everything manually, and there's some glitch was going on with Apple where I would schedule a publication, and what was happening is it was getting saved as a draft. So
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm saying I'm blaming it on Apple, but it's probably user error. So, but hopefully I got it all fixed out. I know we just dropped our most recent episode where we talked about the Ethereum culture, which is like it's a subculture buried deep inside everyone. It's a thing where people feel like they're part animal, and we talked about that. We talked about some Cat Williams drama, and we talked about some the homeless issue that's been going on, where like some churches have been like kicking people out, some have been opening their doors up, and it's a fun episode. I know I spent a little time homeless myself, so that's interesting. Also, we I launched the I shouldn't say launched. I announced my book, and hopefully it'll be out within a year.
Nice.
I will diving deep into American conspiracy culture, and I'm
Nice.
looking at it through the lens of conspiracies are folklore at this point.
Shout out to Red Chew. That's actually my brother. Hopped on here to show some support tonight. Tom
He's
said,
got an excellent.
Tom said humor is important in the existence, especially if you live in Canada.
Well, actually, I had a fun quote that I came across. I'll have to look it up. So I guess you're old enough. So Dr. Ruth, do you remember her by any chance?
I remember the name.
She's the kind old lady that taught us all about sex.
Oh yeah, I know.
She's that lady. So
I
her
thought her name
quote
was Sue.
was maybe I said it wrong. I apologize.
Yeah, I thought it
But
was Dr. Sue Johnson or something like that.
her her quote was when a professor teaches with a sense of humor, people walk away remembering.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what they remember is debatable. But yeah.
Well, we got a couple minutes here. If the first guest doesn't hop on, I've already got someone else waiting so I can bring her on. But I told him probably here in the next couple minutes, we'll give him a couple minutes.
Oh, that's no problem.
Tom says, remember her from 30 years ago. I think
There you go, Tom.
I think the show is still on sometimes. I've seen commercials when I had satellite, but it's been a couple years.
Well, I know that we live in a world of YouTube, and
Yeah.
the information age, for all of the awful things it's brought to us, it's also brought us, the Internet Archive, where you can find episodes of anything anywhere, and most of the world's publications. So
Yeah.
if there's a will, there's a way. You can go learn some fun lessons.
I feel like everything now is. We say YouTube, you can obviously find whatever, but there's a lot of stuff on YouTube that's pretty much shadow banned too. And I'm waiting for the podcast to become that way as well.
Well,
Once I hit a few different topics, it's going to ruffle too many feathers, and I'm going to get another warning, and then an episode banned, and then I'm probably going to get kicked off YouTube. But it is what it is.
Well, one can only hope, right? I think that adds to your credibility when you're in the space that you're in. So
once they start hiding your content, you must have hit the raw nerves. You must be doing something correct.
So, have you had any fun episodes coming out, man? I know you just went from two episodes a week to one episode. Have you gone through some of your backlog?
Yeah, I'm pretty much caught up now, but again, I had the interview tonight, and the guy ended up having to cancel. It's the second time that I've had to reschedule with him, and then not to sound like a prick, but if you've canceled on me a couple times, I'm not going to just continue to reschedule and then flake out again. So I was just like, sorry, dude, I'm not going to try and reschedule again for a third time.
Well, the effort drops. It does.
Yeah.
I know we've had some. I guess anyone who does this has some issues with that. I know. I had a situation with one gentleman who he canceled last minute. Like, I was supposed to be on his show, he canceled last minute, And then so there's a time difference between where he's at and where I'm at. And I read it as Eastern Standard Time. Come to find out, it was definitely not Eastern Standard Time, and I just felt like such a jerk because then I have a whole thing about being late. I don't know. I guess it's my time in the military. It just drives me crazy when I'm late. But I probably spent 24 hours just like with anxiety about being late because I missed the show. So it's
Yeah.
tough, man. A little give, a little take.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
happens. I've had a lot of people, at least he's let me know each time. I've had people just not even show up, and I'm kind of just like, could at
putting
least
your
like,
thumbs.
I always reach out to someone and remind them. If they don't ever acknowledge me, then I'm just like, all right, this isn't going to happen. Then I don't like, prepare for it. And then I've had someone that's secretaries like scheduled everything with me, and then they didn't show up. So I'm emailed them like they never showed up to the scheduled interview. Oh, they didn't? No, does this person even exist? Because I haven't talked to them. I'm talking to their assistant or something. So it's just like,
So I had somebody reach out to us, and I'm pretty sure that person was pretending to be their secretary. Like they're like, "Hey, this is my secretary," but that's the vibe that I got from all of it because there was an element of self importance that was inside the email that really only comes from a certain type. And this is all this it's a little weird out there. But I ended up searching the secretary's name, and she was a social media um, professional, I guess. I'm not sure what you call that. And she didn't have any social media platforms. She wasn't on any social media platforms, and that's what made me think she was made up.
how are you a marketing manager if you don't have the social media?
That's what I'm saying is because I consider like, hey, if she's doing this for this, maybe we could use her. You know what I mean? But we couldn't find her anywhere.
Yeah,
And that
a
just
lot.
seems like one of those.
I keep getting emails from. I won't say the names because it could be a real person, but I keep getting these emails from this marketing company, and I'm pretty sure they're just trying to steal my accounts.
Yes.
But they're saying my videos aren't getting enough video like streams or whatever, and my podcasts. And I was like, you know what? I don't need your help. Like I'm doing what I'm doing. I've been doing it on my own. I don't need to have someone come in there take control of my channels for me just to market me. I was like, I'm not giving you access to my stuff. That's pretty stupid.
Pretty much. So I've worked in sales in the past, and I could probably tell you word for word almost what those emails say.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the real trick when anybody listen to this who's in sales, the real trick of getting somebody to respond to your
What's up,
email
Bryce?
is to put in like a picture of a goat screaming. That way they remember the email like, hey, in case just so you don't forget me, here's a picture of this goat. That's worked for me so many times.
Yeah.
So any marketing professionals out there, give it a shot.
I think this guy hasn't hopped on yet, so we can go ahead and bring the first guest on. So her name is Stephanie. She doesn't want to be on camera, but
okay.
Hi,
Hello.
Stephanie. Can you hear us? Hello.
Hi. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Good.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hey, how are you?
Doing well. Thank you for being on tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for the invite, or did I invite myself? I'm not sure, but
I made a post and said anyone's welcome that wanted to come on here and share some experiences. So I appreciate you coming on here and talking with us tonight.
sure, absolutely.
I think you're from Indiana.
Yeah.
Did you have that Bigfoot meeting on Saturday? Was that something you were involved with?
I did. Yeah, I started a Bigfoot group in Fort Wayne, Indiana. I just moved here about a year ago. And I moved from Prescott, Arizona, where I had a Bigfoot group. And so I started that about 2 years ago. And so when I moved, I handed it off to someone else in the group. But we had about, I want to say at the time, 200 people, maybe 300 people in our Prescott, Arizona Bigfoot group. And so when I came here, I started another one. And I think we have about 78 people right now.
Nice.
So yeah, it's just local folk who have, may or may not believe in Bigfoot. So it's all good. we welcome everyone.
Yeah, I actually went up to the meeting on Saturday. And I talked to a few people that were there. So
Oh, good. Oh, at the library.
yeah, at the library.
Yeah, yeah. I missed that because I wasn't feeling well, but
Oh.
yeah, I had so I thought I'd come on and talk about I had an encounter as a child with Bigfoot, so I thought maybe that might interest you or not, and that's why it kind of started me on my path, I guess, when I got older. Um,
No, love to hear about it. Go ahead.
I
yes,
do have a question
sure.
before we get into that. So how did you go about when did the decision to start the Bigfoot group come into play, and then the decision to carry it on but after you moved?
Yeah, so prior to living in Arizona, I lived in Southern California, and there really isn't much of a Bigfoot type presence there. Definitely more UFOs because of, Palm Springs and, Palmdale. And there's a lot of, UFO sightings around there like that. But not so much Bigfoot. That's more Northern California or Central California. So my since I'm from Missouri originally and we moved to California when I was more like a teen, um, so my encounter happened in Missouri as a child, and so I actually didn't know what I saw, and not till I got older when I found out what a Bigfoot was, and I was like, oh, I think that's what I saw. So it kind of started me on kind of this exploration, and so in Prescott, there's definitely more of a because it's surrounded by the Prescott National Forest, and it's like Prescott's kind of more central north Arizona, so there's a lot of like forest around, and so you had more I guess more believers in that area. So it was kind of just something I started not thinking it would even grow. But yeah, it grew because there's a lot of forest around there. I think it's the largest continuous ponderosa pine forest in the U.S. And
It looks absolutely beautiful. I'm looking at it right now. I've never
oh
heard of it
yeah,
before.
it's gorgeous. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, so when I was growing up in Missouri, we lived in this area called Big Bend, Missouri. And so this is like, I'm sure it's all built up now, but back in the 70s, we lived in this old house and we were in the woods and Midwest woods, not mountains or anything like that. But so it was kind of that woods where your neighbor's like a quarter mile away and you have to go through the woods and so we were at our neighbor's house. I was probably about 8 years old. Excuse me. And I was there with my brother and my sisters, and we were playing with the neighbors' kids. And just to give you some context, our neighbors kept a mountain lion as a pet in a chain link cage. And so we were kind of, out there and more in a rural area. And so I remember getting upset about something with my siblings at the neighbor's house. And I was like, I'm going to go tell, mom what you guys were doing. And I know it was after school. So I think it was more in the late afternoon, but the sun was up. I mean, it was still, daylight. And so I remember walking through the woods to get back to the house. And I just kind of stopped because I just had this feeling of being watched, but not prey, just being watched. And so I stopped and, my parents have always warned us, be careful, there are, coyotes in the woods or, but I didn't, I didn't feel like prey though, or I was going to get hurt. I just felt like I was being watched. And so I stood there and I started looking around and I'm guessing because I'm looking, going back to childhood, I'm going to say 30 to 40 feet away, behind one of these, kind of thin trees. And so when it gets into be more towards the fall, a lot of the, obviously it gets to be more barren, the trees. And I saw a very, very tall, kind of lanky, lean, not stocky, very, very tall, kind of like kind of hair, well, not kind of hairy creature, with like a leather face. It didn't have hair on its face. And later, when I had seen Star Wars, it reminded me of Chewbacca, but with a leather face. It was kind of tall, lanky, and it didn't have hair in its face. And I remember looking at it, and I remember thinking in my head, did my parents tell me about this and I'm not remembering? Like, did they tell me, hey, this lives in the woods, be careful? Like, I'm going through this Rolodex in my mind thinking, okay, what is this? And had they told me about this? Kind of almost like I'm trying to figure out if I should be scared or not, but I didn't feel scared. And I remember just looking at going, I don't know what this is. I don't think they've ever told me about this. And I'm have this going through my mind is this, and I just, at that point, just kind of uh, darted. I went home and I told my mom. She did not believe me. But when I got older, I never heard of, at that time, I never heard of a Bigfoot. I didn't know what a Bigfoot was. When I got older and I had, started hearing about Bigfoot and Sasquatch, and I put two and two together and I was like, oh, I think that's what I saw. And so later, when that show, Finding Bigfoot, came out, that's when I started getting my renewed interest in what I saw. And my mom started watching the show and she said, wow, I think I believe you, like, now, because now as an adult, I can talk to her and be like, yeah, no, I saw that. She's like, no, I believe you, because she goes, I was watching that show Finding Bigfoot, and they talked about, tree knocking and howls, and she goes, and we did hear those things around that house. I just didn't know what they were. I didn't know what it was. I just thought it was people in the woods. But she goes, no, and I do remember hearing that. And we did have I do remember one incident at that house. We had an outside door that went down to the basement. And then it would have, a door that goes up to the house. And I remember we had left one night, we went to my uncle's house and we had come back, and that outside basement door was broken into. And we had a puppy. We had just gotten a puppy, like, I guess a week or 2 weeks before, and that puppy was missing. But no one had gone into the house. No one had walked upstairs and, went into the house. So it doesn't mean that was Bigfoot, but it was interesting. The only thing was taken was the puppy. And you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. It's not like somebody would just hear a puppy yelping or anything like that, because you're kind of off the main road and you're kind of set back and to the woods. So I don't know how would anybody hear a puppy yelping and decide to steal it. So again, I don't know if that was Bigfoot though, but so that was my experience.
I've had some weird noises and stuff here and there happen, but I know, and this was probably almost 30 years ago, there was my cousins had their rabbits. They were all like, the cages were busted up and the rabbits had all been eaten, and they'd found a puppy underneath a vehicle. I have no idea where the puppy came from, but there was a random puppy, and this dog grew up to be a huge dog and ended up being very mean. And I can't see the dog doing it because even the cages were off the ground, so something that would have had to come up there to get it and tear through the metal cages.
Right.
And I always wonder what that could have been. And obviously, I don't know if they found fur or whatever. I don't know the whole story. I was a kid when it happened, but I just know that something tore through metal rabbit cages, killed the rabbits, and they found a random puppy hiding underneath a vehicle.
Wow. And where?
That's such
what
a
area was this?
strange,
What area was
strange
this
string
at?
of events.
It was here in Indiana.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. But
Could
yeah,
have been Dogman.
I've never had an experience after that. We've gone out to the woods and stuff, but I remember there, the people in Prescott would have sightings, up by the lakes and stuff that were, Goldwater Lake is one. Before it got really built up more, like back in the 80s, people would tell me that people would see, Bigfoot. And Prescott had a lot of cattle ranches. So it has a really very long history of the Wild West, if you will. Like Wyatt Earp was, I think, the sheriff at one point. And so a lot of the cattle ranchers, the ranch hands, even today would say, tell us, about they would come, Bigfoot coming down from the caves um, in Prescott and, stealing a calf or something like that. These ranches are, thousands of acres and, they're kind of in the middle of, some of them are in the middle of Prescott National Forest or, part of the ranch could be. And it was one ranch, I think it was Yavapai Ranch. The ranch hands would see, uh, I guess Sasquatch Bigfoot come and steal, calves and stuff. And they said they lived up in they live up in the caves, and that's recent. So yeah, so there's been a history of Bigfoot in the Prescott area for many years.
I've been up in that area a little bit, so it's definitely. I don't want to use the word squatchy because that's too cliche.
Yeah.
But I could definitely see that there being something up there.
Yeah, and they have one of the hot spots
How you
there.
doing,
Called,
Oscar?
oh, sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
I was going to say there's a hot spot there called Strawberry or Payson near Prescott. It's about an hour away, and it is up in the mountains, and that definitely is a hot spot. They get a lot of BFRO reports out of Payson, and our group actually went up and did a tent camping. We do campouts, and they had a lot of elk up there, and so they would see everyone in Payson, kind of were, I guess, knew about Bigfoot, and it was just part of the culture up there. And so it wasn't unusual to talk about Bigfoot. Bigfoot would follow the migration of the elk up there. And so we had went camping out there, and we found a huge footprint. We jumped my younger son jumped the fence on the other side of this campground where the elk were, and they had walked down there with someone else from our group, and they had found a big footprint down there. And so they took photos, and so we didn't have casting equipment, unfortunately, but
was it just one print, or was there a couple?
it was just one print, but it was kind of it had rained before, so it was kind of, muddy a bit. And, but it was only one print they found. It was kind of this muddy, rocky more area. But yeah, but it definitely was one print, and it was pretty big, and it was pretty defined. So, and it's on another side of a fence that you're actually not supposed to go over, but they had jumped the fence and went over just to look. So.
I'm curious, how does that?
Someone's asking what state that was
I'm
in.
sorry.
That's
What
Arizona.
state was in?
Arizona, yeah.
So I'm curious, so you have this encounter when you're a kid, you come to a realization, however many years later, what you saw. Yeah, but pop culture, how does that affect you? Like, obviously, you're still going out and you're looking. Like, when you're out in the woods, so you're doing some outdoorsy things. Are you always looking over your shoulder?
No, honestly, I am more concerned about bears than I am about Bigfoot.
Oh, bears are terrible. I don't
Yeah.
blame you.
Because, in California, we've got some big bears, and even in SoCal. And, we've been out camping in this area in SoCal called Big Bear Lake. And, they've had sightings up there, and pretty common for years. People have told me of being in the Boy Scouts and up there, which is a pretty popular area, and having experiences and seeing things. And I mean, there's big bears up there. So when you're kind of going out there at night, and even in Prescott, there are bears out there too, black bears. But so I'm more concerned about bears, honestly, than I am about Bigfoot. So yeah, I don't have like any kind of PTSD from it or anything. I guess I didn't really have a scary encounter, so there was no like, you know, I just remember dreaming about it for a long time after. And I think it's because I just didn't know what it was, and I think it was just maybe my mind trying to process it. But as I did when I got older, and I'm probably going to say, gosh, it had to be, I don't think I heard about Bigfoot probably till my late teens, maybe early 20s. And then I was kind of like, I guess that's what I saw, but it's not until actually Finding Bigfoot came on. And I was like, wow, this is really interesting, because it at first watching it, it did kind of freak me out a little bit. I was like, wow, this is, but to hear other people's experiences, it was fascinating, honestly, because I
like
didn't tell many people.
I like that show for listening to what the people
Yes.
that they talk to, but when they're out actually searching for it, I think it's kind of dumb.
Yeah, I like the town hall. But yeah, the searching I could I could fast forward through, but
It seems
the
it's
town hall.
definitely made for TV.
Mm-hmm.
A
Absolutely.
lot of jump angles, weird cuts. So
Yeah.
we have we have a Bigfoot festival out now. I'm in North Carolina. It's a pretty big state. So it's the other side of the state, probably about 5-6 hours away from where I'm at, and it draws a pretty big crowd.
Mm,
And it's one of those topics
yeah.
where it's pretty uniquely American. It's not like it's a werewolf where the stories originated in France. It's been here. It's our thing, and it's always cool seeing the crowd that's just fascinated by it. Plus, I love the Bigfoot memorabilia.
Yeah.
The stickers are fantastic. I'm a big fan of the stickers. The cool shirts, like the ones that say that I'm out there or something like that. But it's big thumbs up for me there.
Yeah, I think what area fascinates me, and I've not been there yet, just because I've just moved back to the Midwest, is Land Between the Lakes. I've heard a lot of interesting stories out of there, so I really would. We're planning to possibly in our Bigfoot group to take a trip down there and do some camping. But I've heard, I don't know if you guys have heard stories out of there, Land Between the Lakes, but I heard it's very interesting.
We
I've
actually
heard
just did an episode
You
on
guys did?
my yeah. It was just a couple episodes back. That's a well, actually we did a whole Kentucky thing. That Kentucky Tennessee area. The Land Between the Lakes. So that's there's a real freaky one about a kid who excuse me, went on a camping trip with a like family friends and they got eaten. It's yeah.
Mm.
None of that was fun. Like we try to make fun of this kind of stuff, but when you have people being eaten, it's only there's only so many jokes you can make about that. So, but
That
that one, good,
not
Brandon.
to
I'm sorry.
interrupt. I've heard that that's been disproved. The guy that if it's the same guy I'm thinking of, there was never any reports on it, which that doesn't mean it didn't happen because obviously they cannot have reports if they don't want certain things to become out there. That's my conspiracy person inside. But no, I'd heard if it's the same guy, I can't think what his name is. The whole family was eaten, but he somehow managed to survive. And someone said that his whole story was a bunch of crap.
Well, it's largely based on a Reddit post, if I'm not mistaken, and Reddit is the most reliable source on the internet. So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so now, I'm sorry, your name is it's Susan, right?
Stephanie.
I'm
Stephanie.
sorry,
Close.
Stephanie. I apologize. Your name's not on the screen for me here.
Close.
So now, of the people that you've talked to, because obviously you've talked to more people about Bigfoot than I've ever even thought about. Are there any really cool stories that you've heard from people?
Yeah, it's funny. I think that, when people, it's interesting when people join your group and they're very hesitant to share because a lot of times they've probably had an experience and they don't want to talk about it because they've never talked about it. And like I had that in Arizona, is people come just to kind of check it out and make sure like these aren't a bunch of weirdos, because you just don't know what to expect, especially if you had an experience and you just don't know who to talk to. But I think once you kind of talk about your experience, like, hey, yeah, I did see this and I completely believe you. And I think people are definitely more apt to open up and talk about their experiences. And yeah, so I, you know, in Prescott, there's been, you know, there's a, I'm going to forget the name, but there's an old gold mining town. There's a lot of gold mining areas in Prescott, and there's one up on the mountain, and I'm forgetting the name now. But I mean, I've had people tell me anywhere from ghosts to UFOs to Bigfoot, but a really cool story. That's good. That's interesting. Well, I will tell you one of, well, I will tell you one my son had who was not a believer. And this was when he was solo camping in the Prescott National Forest. And he used to go out for like 2 or 3 days and solo camp. And Prescott has between July and September, they have a monsoon season. And so, the rains come in. I mean, you can get flash floods, and it's pretty dangerous. And so he is not a believer. He went out solo camping and he got caught. And I had told him not to go because I knew it was going to rain the next day because we were in monsoon season. Well, the rains ended up coming early in that night. And so he got caught in a monsoon rain. And he was probably, I had driven him out about 3 miles out into the forest as much as I could on this fire road. And then he walked another 2 miles in. And so the rains came and he had a satellite radio, thankfully, phone. And he had it with him. And he had called me and I was trying to see about going to pick him up. But at that point with monsoon rains, it gets muddy really quick. I mean, it would probably take an emergency crew to go get him. And I did try to go get him, but I had picked him up the next morning. He had just, went on to higher ground and, pitched his little tent and just waited out the rain because I couldn't get to him, but I knew he was okay because of the satellite radio. We've been communicating. And so we had picked a spot where I would pick him back up the next morning. And when I picked him up, he was a little freaked, and he's not one to get shaken. He's kind of the kid that goes out and bushcrafts and does survival. He was 17 at the time, and, he can, go rucksacking, 20 miles and stuff. So, but he said that he was trying to cross this one road and he had gotten this wash. He was trying to get up to higher ground. And he said he was this flash flood rain was coming through and it was really dangerous. And he just said he had this like sense of dread come over him. And he goes, I wasn't scared about the water because I knew I just needed to get to higher ground. He goes, but I had this sense like I am in danger. And he said he had a flashlight and he said, and I looked up and he goes, and there were two huge eyes like illuminating. It was pitch black. And so it just scared him completely. And he was trying to get his light on it. But with the trees and stuff, he couldn't quite get, and he knew it wasn't an owl. It was pretty high up. And maybe it could have been, but I don't think an owl would be out at that time with the rains and stuff. But I could be wrong. But I think for him, it was just the sense of dread. And he's not saying that he had an experience. He's just, he's not claiming that, but he was just saying this is what happened. And he felt like, whoa, like I am in danger. I need to like get out of here. And I don't know what these eyes are, but that's not normal to illuminate like, like that, especially when I'm not shining my light on them and it's very dark. So he had bent down to climb up to the wash and he was looked up again and they were gone. So again, he's not saying that that was a Bigfoot. He didn't know what it was, but he's not a believer still, but he just couldn't explain it. But so other stories I'm trying to think, and I'm sorry, my mind is going absent.
No, it's fine. Owls are notorious jerks.
Yeah.
But I did want to say that's got to be a great "I told you so" moment as a mom.
Oh, I know. I tried, but he's still not like, I don't know what it was. He's like that. I don't know. I said, but you said you felt
it
that
rained. You told him not to go.
Yes.
There's nothing like being dumb. That
Yes.
really
Yes,
makes you miss your mom sometimes. So.
Yes, it was a great appreciation for me. Yeah, no, that's true. That was a scary kind of night because I was worried. But
I
thankfully,
imagine you had to be worried sick.
I was, yeah, but thankfully we had the satellite radios and I could stay in contact with him. And I knew he was in a safe place. He had gotten to a safe place, but because I was thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to have to call 911 and, they're going to have to like go out there and, find him and stuff. But so that's just one experience. But honestly, with the gold mining and the town, again, the town escapes me, but there's so many there. It's kind of known for being a ghost town. And so, but yeah, a lot of people have had experience with UFOs out there, and people who are not believers, these are people that are like, yeah, I don't know, but this is what I saw, but I don't know what I saw, kind of thing.
Have you had any experiences since you've been in Indiana?
No, I haven't. Well, you know what? I stepped back. I actually did, but I don't know what I saw. It could have been, I don't know. But my younger son and I were driving across country from Arizona to Indiana, and we had hired beacons to transport all our, housing and stuff. We were just driving our cars. So my younger son was following me, and we were coming up, I think it's the 69. And I was like, oh, I need to go by Home Depot or something. So I got off I think it was around Muncie. I still don't know the area that well. And so he went to go get gas, and he said, okay, I'll meet you in like 20 minutes, and I was trying to find the Lowe's or Home Depot, and I finally did. And so I got what I needed, and I drove around. And again, I was just, I didn't know the area that well. And I made a wrong turn, and I had went down this neighborhood area, and I had pulled over because I'm like, oh, I'm going the wrong way. So I pulled over and I turned to my left because I wanted to see if any car was coming, because I was going to make a U-turn off this, residential area. And what I saw was like a really big bird, but it looked really big. It was probably like a mile away up. I mean, I could not have been the only person who saw this. It looked very pterodactyl, to be honest, but I don't know what I saw. I didn't see it clear enough, but it was huge. And I will say in Prescott, we've got big hawks and eagles, and we've seen those. I've seen those. And this one was huge. It was much, much bigger. And it looked like a pterodactyl, but I don't know. I don't know if it was or not. And so I just looked at it like, wow, that's the size of a car, and it was just kind of hot. And again, other people have had to seen this because it was daylight. And so I just made a U-turn, and then I looked out again, and then I didn't see it. And so that was it. So I don't know if that was.
I haven't heard anything about big birds. I did talk to someone last summer about one up north near, I think it was Crown Point area. They said this was back in, I think, the 90s. They said a big bird flew over the road, and they said it took up over half the lane. I was like, well, a typical lane is 12 foot. So if it took up half the road, half the lane, I was like, could possibly be either, if it's half a lane, that's only 6 foot wide. If it's half the road, then that's 12 foot. So pretty big difference. So I wasn't real sure what they were talking about, like size wise, but.
Well, someone mentioned Thunderbird. I don't know. I'm not really.
Yeah, it's down there
don't
in
know
the
much
chat. I was
about
going to
that.
say that.
Yeah, I don't know much about it, but I'm not sure.
So the big bird that I've come across is actually, we did this actually in the Kentucky trilogy that we did, was the Bell Witch. There is a story. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that story at all. But it's like a poltergeist thing going on that haunts a specific family. And one of the ominous signs that the devil was afoot was a giant bird that flew over a gentleman, and it blacked out the sun. And that was, yeah, birds are freaky.
What is a Bell Witch? I've never heard of that before.
So in Kentucky, the story goes that there was a land dispute between two families. And this is back, I mean, this is early 1800s America. And the lady put a curse on the gentleman who supposedly stole the land from them. And this witch haunted their house. It really hated really hated the daughter and the father. It was cool with the mom. But this witch would almost cussed, my fault. This witch would
I was gonna say, you almost said the B word.
I did. I caught myself. I'm thinking bell. I'm thinking witch. That the words just came together there. But yeah, so this witch was like it would like have biblical arguments with some of the guests.
Wow.
It was making this girl throw up nails, and it was absolutely horrible, and it haunted them until the dad died.
Oh.
And it's
Mm.
actually it's a pretty fascinating story when you go through all the turns behind all of it. And it's supposedly it's gone.
Mm.
You know, it's the family. You know, there's descendants that still think about this, and then the small town in Kentucky. Of course, I'm thinking Kentucky. It's probably Tennessee for all I know. Now I'm talking about it out loud.
Mhm.
It's a tourist thing. People go there, they see it,
Wow.
and of course, it's got all the natural, all the. It's an Indian burial ground, all that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So that's a
So
fun one. If you got some time, you want to spend 20 minutes on YouTube. Type in
no,
Bell Witch.
I'm a scaredy cat, so I don't go that direction.
Okay, that's probably a good idea
I
then.
stay with Bigfoots and UFOs. I don't go the other way. Dogman's about the only thing that I'll like look at, look into, I should say. But I've
Don't
heard of the Dogmen of
don't tr-
Michigan here too.
don't trust dogmen.
Don't trust
Oh,
dogs.
there's
Aren't men
a
all dogs? That's what I've heard, right? All men are dogs. I don't know.
touche,
Touche,
touche.
little play on words there.
Now,
Bob, I'm gonna
so
have to go look for
actually,
that one.
Mystery Junkie left a comment down here. Is Andrew Jackson ran from the Bell Witch, which I find hilarious. So there was an incident where Andrew Jackson, one of America's most peculiar historical figures, allegedly came across the Bell. She heard about the Bell Witch, went there, and so he brought like a witch. I, it's not an exorcist. It's a witch sayer or something like that. I don't remember the exact terminology. They're supposed to spook off witches, and they tried to intimidate the Bell Witch spirit to leave the house, and they ended up shooting at it with silver bullets.
Mm,
And it supposedly just messed with Andrew Jackson's buddy, and they ended up running away from the whole situation.
wow. That's
So
crazy. That's
yeah,
that's crazy.
when I say there's a lot of interesting things there, there's a lot of interesting things there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, just being in Indiana now, we're just below Michigan, and I've heard a lot about the Michigan Dogman, which is, I guess, very popular in that area up in Michigan. I guess there's a lot of sightings.
They're
I don't know
not
if
just
there's,
in Michigan.
yeah. Are they in Indiana too? I'm not sure if I've heard anything.
I back in 2007, I came face to face with a upright walking canine just a couple miles from where I live right now, and
Really?
I live here in Indiana. So
Oh my gosh. Okay, details. I have not heard this.
basically, I was leaving work, and the guy in front of me swerves to miss something, and when I get up close, it's like this black shadowy. I say shadow, but it was solid. It's this big, tall, black mass, and it's walking in the middle of the road, and it's moving very weird. I didn't see a head, I didn't see arms. I had to swerve around it too, and it kept walking by, and it had to have at least been over 7 feet tall, just because I never saw the top of it when I walked by the window.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up taking off once I got behind the vehicle, and then I'm giving you like the Cliff's Notes version. I'm trying not to take up too much time about it.
Yeah.
And I pulled it next to my coworker. He'd pulled into the parking lot, and he said, "Did you see that?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "It didn't have a head." I was like, "Let's go back." So I convinced him to follow me back. And when we got back to the area, there was a big black dog laying across the road in the same area. And that it wasn't there when we just drove by. So the first thing I'm thinking of is, well, this has to be what was in the middle of the road, not thinking that obviously size difference, whatever. Like, I'm a skeptic for a lot of the stuff. So for me, I just assume it was like this animal. And I get out, and this dog lifts its head up, and it looks back, and its eyes are glowing yellow, and it glows. Like its eyes are glowing at me, and
Mm,
it growls. So I freeze, and the thing stands up, but not like a dog, but almost like a person. Like it goes up on two legs. And
yikes.
it hunches back down, and it kind of goes off into the woods. And then That was the last I've ever seen it. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but that's just the more important parts of it. I've
Wow.
never seen a dog stand up like a human. Like it didn't stand up like this, like its legs dropped to the sides like a person's would, but it didn't have the stereotypical like dogman hands or dogman feet. It looked like just a very big, almost like a wolf, like a German Shepherd type of a dog. It was all black and puffy.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's kind of why I do the podcast, because I never talked about it, and I wanted to talk to other people about the stuff they seen to make myself not feel so crazy for seeing some weird shit.
Yeah, absolutely. You almost have to talk about it with other people because you almost can't reconcile. You know what I mean? It's so unusual. And knowing that other people have had experience or seen things, I think it brings you like, okay, I am normal. This did happen, so I think it helps mentally.
No, I've said before, I was like, I'm not an avid believer, but when you see things, it changes your perspective. So it makes me a little bit more open-minded to certain things. So
Yeah.
I don't think that every time someone sees something that they're seeing some strange cryptid, it obviously could mistake something for this and that, but
Oh, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
also don't think that everyone just makes stuff up just for attention either. I think it's pretty dumb to assume that. So I try and keep an open mind.
Yeah. What I tell people is, when they ask me about it, because I'm pretty open about Bigfoot now, it's become part of my, I guess, I don't know, my who I am. And it's just like, 95% of the people, you get rid of 95% of the sightings for Bigfoot or Dogman, whoever, and it's, a bear, it's someone's lying, it's someone's mistaken. What about the 5% who are really seeing something? You know what I'm saying? It's like you get rid of 95% of everything else that could be something else or it didn't happen. What about the 5%, that really did see something and weren't believers or had an experience in childhood or, a cop or whoever.
Yeah. I never knew what a dog man was until after that. I went home and I drew a picture and I got online and someone said that's a Michigan dog man. I was like, well, what is a Michigan dog man? And I started looking
Yeah.
up stuff about it and I was like, oh, it did look like that. No, I'm 6'3", and when it stood up, we were the same eye to eye level. Whatever was walking in the road first was so much bigger than whatever this dog was. So I don't know if they were two separate things, if it was the same thing. Like, I don't know. It's hard to explain.
Yeah. I've heard of, so I work, I don't want to give out where I work, but I work in international aid and development. And so I was in the Middle East and Lebanon, and we would hear stories or people would tell us about in Afghanistan and stuff about like this black hound or the hound that people would see. I mean, really interesting stuff. I mean, well, even in Syria, because I was working at that time with Syrian refugees. That's right after the Syrian civil war, and people were kind of flooding out of the country into Jordan and Lebanon, and trying to get into Western Europe. And some of their stories of, I guess, like shape shifting, or they would see this dark hound, or I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it's prevalent, I guess, more in like I've heard even like military U.S. soldiers who are stationed over there would have experience in seeing it. But it's called like a black hound or the dark hound or something. I know I'm totally butchering this.
A hellhound?
Hellhound, yes, that's probably it. Yes. Yes. And it's pretty common over in the Middle East, and the different countries there. They would see hellhounds or so that's pretty interesting. It's I don't think it's a dog man. I think it's something else. But it's
No, the
very
hellhounds are
large.
supposed to be, I think, different.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I've heard people say they've seen big black dogs too that are running on all fours, or like a normal dog running, but they look. I actually interviewed a lady, and she said it almost looked like a zombie dog. She always said it like a Resident Evil dog, like one of those Doberman Pinschers, but kind of rotted looking. I was like, I said the hellhounds I've heard are always like big, Great Danish looking monstrosity dogs.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So,
Chihuahuas scare me because they're more vicious than they are big dogs.
We used to joke as a kid. We'd go out to this old area. It's supposed to be a haunted area called Okefenokee, and we never had any experiences out there or anything like that, as far as paranormal that I'm aware of. But on the way out there was always a big black dog that would chase you right before you got there, and we'd always see it laying in this yard. So we knew it was someone's dog, but we always referred to it as the hellhound.
Yeah, that was a real hellhound. Like you actually, it was
Yeah.
actually chasing you.
Yeah, it was. I'm assuming it's just someone's big pet, but it was a big old
Yeah.
black dog, and every time the car would drive by, it'd always run right next to you, chasing after you.
That's called the annoying hound, I guess.
That's
That's a hellhound. That's an annoying hound.
so. I'm curious about the hellhound mythology. So my mind immediately went to the Sherlock Holmes novel,
Oh
the
yeah, Hound of
Hounds of Barksville.
Oh, Baskerville. The Hound of
Baskerville. There we go.
Baskerville. Yeah.
I don't know why I had barked. That's my dog.
That helps you
Yeah.
remember.
Now I don't. I'd be interested to know like how far back that dates, because obviously that story, as great of an author as Sir Conan Doyle was, that was based on some ancient, maybe not ancient, but story that was passed down.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it wasn't. It was a mastiff, right? It was a mastiff named Carlo. That's what it ended up being. But yeah, it was definitely based on, a story, probably a hellhound, really. I remember reading the books, or reading that book, many years ago, but I remember it being a mastiff and it was named Carlo. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
it was
That's random facts right there. Thank you. You're
it was
welcome.
the only Sherlock Holmes novel I've ever read. So
Do you guys talk about other like conspiracy theories, or is it just paranormal things or things like
Uh,
Bigfoot?
the whole show is pretty much one big conspiracy theory.
Is it? Are we really
No,
here? I'm not sure.
no. Basically, I started the show off to originally it was going to be more like into conspiracies and stuff like UFOs and all sorts of things like that.
Mhm.
And then it just turned more into basically interviewing people with experiences. So I've got stuff coming out. I think my episode tomorrow is actually called The Phantom Time Conspiracy. So
Mm,
that's supposed to be about how back in the Middle Ages, we're actually in a different year. They changed the calendars to whatever, and I don't know. So
wow,
there's that one's coming out tomorrow. But no, we talk about all sorts of things.
nice. I'll tell you one conspiracy theory, and this is something when I was in Lebanon. We worked out in the this place called the Baikal Valley. It's just right next to Syria's border, and we had a lot of people tell us that a lot of the locals there that lived in Baikal Valley. It's probably about an hour and a half outside of Beirut, and they had told us, and in fact, the person who was my work colleague at the NGO I was working with at that time, and he was actually from Lebanon, and he confirmed it. They said that, and I don't know if this is true, but pretty much these are all locals. I believe local people. um, do you remember when they said like weapons of mass destruction, and they said Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, and then come to find out he didn't?
Yeah.
Well, they had said that he had moved the weapons of mass destructions into the Baikal Valley in Lebanon when they came looking for them. And that's where they went. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I was told by the locals there. So I thought that's an interesting conspiracy, or what to them it's truth. It's not a conspiracy. They said
Mhm.
that actually did happen. So I don't know. I thought that was interesting though.
I would lean heavily on that. That was a bit of a myth or a misunderstanding, just because
Possibly.
it's just who we had. I mean, Bush Cheney, they needed there to be weapons.
Right.
Yeah,
I
they
think there
they had
was.
to have it. You know what I mean? It's not like there was. It's not like it went from Bush and immediately went over to somebody else. And it's that's my thoughts on that matter.
Yeah. Well, what they were saying is that they were saying that, they were telling Bush and Cheney that there was weapons of mass destruction. but when they went to go look for them, they weren't there or something on the, and then the people in the Bacall Valley were like, no, well, they moved them here. That's where they went. That's why they couldn't find them. They moved them out of the country into Lebanon.
Yeah, that whole situation is such a. I'm a veteran. I've spent a tremendous amount of time looking into
Yeah.
that. And
Oh, did you? Oh, have you? Oh, okay.
yeah, so it was the way that the whole weapons of mass destruction thing went down, and it's so easy to look at
Hmm.
how awful we were at getting intelligence and think
Sure.
there was a conspiracy. But reality is they lied to us. They
Mhm.
took shady information and then they gave that shady information to somebody else. It was the
Mhm.
exact same piece of paper or whatever document. So now they had two confirmed pieces of
Yeah.
information, but it was actually the same document that
Wow. Interesting.
we really did
Yeah.
screw over thousands and thousands of people and
So true.
generations of our country because
Absolutely. Well,
so
never believe the
that was a
government.
profiteer thing. So
I don't believe the government. So as soon as they say something, I don't believe it. It's like, oh, that's okay. UFOs, but now they're, UFOs are coming out more, with David Grosh is, with his testimony. Um, but it's just, it's hard to believe the government for anything really. Any government, I'll be honest with you. I've been in a lot of countries and man, when you have to work with a government or a ministry, another, any, oh, especially if it's like a post-communist country or if it's a developing country, it's extremely difficult. It's just, I can't even tell you, but yeah, even our own government.
I'm
I'm
actually
sure
looking
they're,
into
trust them.
that right now. Actually,
I'm sure they're listening to us, so it's okay.
they are.
They already
They might
know
not be
about
hearing it, but they're listening.
Yeah.
they're always listening, especially to this show at this point. I think I've pissed them off enough.
Oh, I'm sure. They got Brandon's number.
When I've talked about specific topics, I've started having internet issues.
Really?
And
I believe it.
I've heard noises in my headset, which
Mm,
sounded like clickings and voices when no one else heard them, but I could hear it. So
wow. I
yeah,
believe it.
it's definitely something else. But,
Yeah.
Well,
God, well, thank you guys so much for having me on your show. I appreciate it. It's been really nice to talk with both of you.
I appreciate you coming on
Yeah,
here
it was
talking with me. Yeah.
good to meet you there. Thank you for listening to us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Take
Well,
care.
you have a good night. Yep.
You too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Gonna bring Rye on here. How you doing?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. You'll have to tell me if my mic is okay. I had to make some. I was doing an interview on Skype and I had to do a lot of adjustments to it, so I don't know if
No,
it's
you're
good
good.
for StreamYard. Excellent.
Yeah, you're coming in loud and clear on my end too, man.
Perfect.
Well, hi, I'm
perfect.
Rich, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Hey,
Ryan.
Rich. I'm Rye, host of the new podcast or the new show, Codega's Codex of Curiosities. A mouthful.
So I was curious, like the episode came out, like our interview with each other, like the swap cast came out last week, and it's the same week you guys announced that you weren't doing the podcast anymore. I was like, well, should I release this episode? Like,
of course, we're still pumping them, we're still promoting them. We're just hey Tom. Oh, I should actually turn that on so I can actually see the comments. There we go. Yeah, we both have different ideas and nothing. It wasn't like a bad break or anything like that. We just, we're going to finish up the Lost Frequency. We have a couple more episodes still there, and then just branching off from the same tree.
no. I think it's easier for me to work by myself than have to work with somebody else, just because I can schedule how I need to schedule. I don't have to work with someone else's time, and it's just
I
flow
totally agree.
Solo.
Yeah, I
Getting on the
agree.
same page is tough.
Yep. Yeah. And Tom was great, actually. It was my schedule that was always kind of fluctuating and changing, and so he adapted to that. So it was good that way. But I do realize, though, there's a lot more freedom in scheduling when it's just you as well. So, which is good. And there's, and the amount of effort you put in and time is, you don't have to weigh, oh, I put in this, you did that, or you did this kind of thing. It's just, it's all on me now. So that's good.
Yeah, it's a good adventure. My two co-hosts are brothers, and they live together.
Oh,
and
nice.
They can't even get on the same page. So, it's a lot of fun juggling that. It works for us, But we've known each other for so long that if it didn't work, we'd have to be mean to each other. So
fantastic. That is fantastic.
So
yeah. Go ask for it. Ask it. Yeah.
So when is that? Is that your solo project? Because you mentioned Lost Frequency. I'm not familiar, so I apologize.
No worries. Yeah.
Is that the running name for the new show? And when?
Yeah, the one. Hang on, as I'm trying to. The one right here. That's my new show. The Lost Frequency podcast is the one that's going to come to an end here right away. It pretty much is. It's just running its course till about. I think the last episode is going to drop on YouTube on February 18th. And sorry about the dogs in the background. That's one thing is I record on my rooftop here in Mexico. So every now and then we get some street dogs barking. And now it's Codega's Codex of Curiosities. So Codex, of course, is a old book full of curiosities, but Codega is the key. A Codega, and I'll give a little brief explanation. A Codega was a occupation in Venice. And what this person did is they carried a lantern around and they guided people from point A to point B, protecting them from thieves, demons, ghosts, other entities. And along the way, they would tell them stories. And so I just going to be continuing that tradition on YouTube here.
That's a fun origin story. I like that one. Yeah. I enjoy words. I hate overly complex words, and I love fun words. So that's got a good story to it. So.
Yeah, that's and like it is. I'm going to leave the Codega in there, but for most part, I'm going to shorten it just to the Codex of Curiosities. Mystery Junkie. It definitely is a tongue twister. So that's why I'm like, I'll just shorten it to the Codex of Curiosities, and the Codega is the one who's going to be is the guide along there, and it is a tongue twister.
I had to look up what Codega meant the other day.
I do have a video in my on my Facebook group where I kind of I put a little bit into that, and I kind of delve into it and say what the Codega is. And then on my intros to all my podcasts now, it's going to be saying what it is. So whenever that first one drops, which I think will be on Tuesday, the first Tuesday after the 18th, which is 18th is on a Sunday. So 19th, 20th. So February 20th will be my first episode dropping, and you guys get to see the great intro.
2 days before my birthday.
Oh, there we go. 2 days. So your birthday's on the 22nd.
Yeah.
My sister
40.
My sister's is too. Yes. Oh, 40. Welcome to the 40s. I'm almost on my way out soon.
No, it's creeping up on me. I don't feel like I'm 40, but sometimes I feel like I'm freaking 80.
I hear you. There's days where I'm like, damn, I slept funny and I hurt my back. Like, seriously? Like, when I was younger, I was playing rugby and I could go through so much crap. And then now it's just, I slept funny. Like, that's terrible. A terrible statement.
The last time we talked, you guys were wearing t-shirts. And I was a little bit jealous because we were in like 20 degrees and you guys were like, oh, it's like 86. What's it down there now?
So of course I'm in Celsius. So it's 21 degrees Celsius, which is probably the same temperature of, let's see, does anybody can do a conversion really fast? I'm going to
I have no idea. I'm American. I don't know Celsius.
I know. So 21 Celsius in Fahrenheit.
It's a made up measurement.
70. So it's 70 degrees. Right now it's 70 degrees.
Nice.
Yeah,
So I actually
They
think
get to
it's
multiply by 9 or something. I don't. Yeah,
it's
Celsius,
some ridiculous,
that
and
one
then you have
confuses
to
me.
add. Then you have to add like 32 or something ridiculous. It's like
Yeah.
times it by 1.6 and add 32.
I'm not sure how we ended up. I honestly, I don't know who measures their temperature. What I don't know if that's just a metric across the board, Celsius, but like how we ended up on Fahrenheit is I don't know how they made that. Like I understand our feet versus meters. Like I
Yeah.
know what a foot looks like. I don't know what the fuck a meter is. You know what I mean?
3.3 feet. 3 point. So
Yeah.
unfortunately, Canada is stuck in the middle. Because US is such a big neighbor of ours and a big trading partner. We kind of, even though we're Celsius, Fahrenheit, we're meters, we're feet. It's ridiculous. So, and I was just discussing people. Sorry about that. I was just discussing this with someone recently, and it's like if you ask me my height, I'm going to tell you in feet and inches. I have no idea what it is in centimeters. If you ask me my weight, it's going to be in pounds. I don't know what I weigh in kilos. Now, if you ask me the distance to go, to drive to another city, I'm going to tell you in kilometers. Now, if you're asking temperature, outside temperature, always Celsius. Inside the house temperature, it can be Celsius or Fahrenheit. Now I used to work in construction, so hot water heating. I did a lot of hot water heating with boilers and whatnot. All Fahrenheit. We don't deal in Celsius. Swimming pool temperatures or hot tub temperatures, Fahrenheit. I don't know what they're supposed to be in Celsius. It's crazy. We're just this mix match kind of a country full of measurements.
You said you're in Canada?
Well, I was. I'm
You
originally
were,
from
okay.
Canada. Yeah, 2 years now here in Mexico.
Oh well, that's a little drive.
It's a long drive, yeah. And I will tell you how long it is in kilometers, not miles. Yeah, it's crazy like that. And actually, sitting right here on this rooftop, I'm not sure if I mentioned this to you, Brandon. It was probably like 4 months ago. I was on the phone talking with a friend, and it's kind of strange because every now and then you get a feeling, and I'm like, I need to keep my eyes to the sky. So I was sitting on this rooftop, all the lights off, talking with a friend, and I'm looking out. The ocean is 2 miles. I'm gonna guess. No, not even. I'll say it's like 1 mile away. I don't know. I'll say it's like it's a kilometer. So the ocean's about a kilometer away. And coming in over there was this light. And nothing too drastic, and I was like, well, it could be a plane. What could be something else? And it started getting brighter and brighter. And I'm like, well, it could be a plane. But then I'm gonna do this little thing. It split off, and it split off like this, and it came back in. It kind of was in an almond shape, kind of like this, and it came back together. So it split off. If I was judging, I would say probably, 300 feet. It flew away about 300 feet, and it was just symmetrical, perfect, and unison, came back together. And after it did that, after a couple seconds, it just disappeared. And there was nothing there anymore. And I'm talking. This is the second time I've been on the phone when I've had a UFO sighting, and I'm talking with my friend, telling him everything I'm seeing. And I'm like, it's gone now. And about 30 seconds later, in that exact spot where it disappeared, was a shooting star. Was it a shooting star? I don't know, but it was like instant like this, and that is all I saw. It was pretty cool actually seeing that here. It just had this feeling to keep my eyes to the sky specifically in that one direction. Very strange.
It is weird because the night that I interviewed with Eric from Uncomfortable, I had saw that thing in the back here that we talked about. Said it looked like a flare, and then the night that we interviewed for our swap cast with the Lost Frequencies, I had mentioned that in my front yard I saw that thing that I thought was Skynet, or not Skynet, but Starlink.
Yeah.
But it wasn't Starlink. Like, my whole family saw it with me, and then I was trying to record it, and like, you can see it on my video, but when I send it to someone else, you can't see it on the video. It's freaking weird that you can see it on mine, but when you send it, you don't see it.
That is strange. That is
I don't know if
very,
it's
very strange.
I don't know if that's the quality being so downgraded, because it's still hard to see even when we record it on my phone, but you can still see it. But like, even with me trying to brighten it up, when I send it to someone, it just looks black. It's weird.
like I do know, like if you're sending via, I'm not going to say WhatsApp, but if you're sending via Facebook, it always reduces the quality, and that might be an issue there. I know when I was in Chihuahua in northern Mexico, when I saw that UFO during the day, you know, I tried recording with my phone. I only had a Samsung Galaxy S3 at that time, and there was I couldn't. There was nothing. It was just no, we're not. Nothing is coming up on the phone at all. And it's so. What do? I call my wife to tell her exactly what I'm seeing as I'm seeing it. Because hey, and it was strange. I'm in the middle of a parking lot watching these UFOs, and there was three, and no one else, and everyone else is just going about their day, and it was really crazy, really crazy.
I think I've seen enough reptilians. They're just all unmasked.
They're all unmasked.
I would say an insectoid.
I don't know. I don't.
Is it now Ben in Black? Is it a bug? That's the whole premise of the movie. I'm not arguing that. So I'm going gray.
Yeah,
I think I've always thought praying mantises look like typical gray alien heads. So when someone says insectoids and I see praying mantises, I've always been creeped out by that. They're like the one bug that I will not mess with. Like if they're on the side of my house, I'm like, "You're good, dude. I ain't messing with you. Like this is your house now, because I don't want your alien friends coming down here doing stuff to me in my sleep."
I would definitely say yeah, and that's specifically the one that I would want to see would be a praying mantis type of alien, because it's so gray is so typical. Everyone's seen it. Reptilian, well, maybe a little scary, but yeah, maybe they're just all here when they're just wearing masks. And the insectoid, though, I would find that fascinating.
Yeah, here's the thing about reptiles. I'm a big mammal supporter, and I occasionally throw rocks at lizards just to remind them of their place. So I don't want any of that karma coming back at me. So,
don't piss off the overlords. Don't tell them that.
Yeah, I threw rocks at your underlings.
Yeah. Last thing I need is someone just get that message out there on me.
So here's the real kicker.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Are they actually aliens, or are they from here?
Or are they both? Yes. Are they both?
Have they always been here?
Well, I'm always a words kind of guy, a play on words. In the English language, what do we actually call them? We call them ETs, which is extraterrestrial. And what does terrestrial mean? It means of the Earth. It doesn't mean of another planet. It doesn't mean of Mars or anything. It means of the Earth. So they're extras on this Earth.
Yeah.
So I find that fascinating, play on words, My camera keeps I keep like.
You got a little bit of blur there. It's fine, man.
Yeah, so yeah.
It's the government listening. It's okay.
On the Mexican, the whatever college that presented the aliens to the. Where are you at on that? What are your eyes?
They look like a bunch of paper mache kind of things. They looked too fake, which could mean that they're real because they look so fake. And again, what are we judging it on? It's like I'm judging it on Hollywood. Could these be legit? I don't know. It could be any FEs.
We can't say that word.
It's I would say I'm not a glober, but I'm not fully on board with FE. I'm somewhere in between. I think the globe that is being presented is not. It's not legit. I think there's more. There's more land. I think there's definitely more land. Could it be a much larger globe? I'm more on that one, or maybe hollow Earth. That's always a possibility. But flat Earth, this is what pisses me off so much is when people argue and they're like, "Oh, flat Earth is so stupid." They always show like this is the square. They show a square map, and oh yeah, look, you're gonna fall off. I'm like, no, that is not it. It's it could be on the back of a giant turtle. It's the circular, and has the wall, and there could be lands on the other side of it. What it actually is, I don't know. I do know though that NASA's full of shit and they're lying to us.
I've said that for a long time.
Yeah, not another. What is it? Not another. That acronym stands for something else. It was kind of funny. We just actually had, well, the Lost Frequency had Sean Hibbler on. I don't know if you guys know who Sean Hibbler is.
I was listening to it earlier.
Yeah, he's made some amazing flat Earth documentaries. On the level or next level. I think it's what it's called. He makes a great point. So I'll just leave it for that. Because I don't know. I truly don't know. Yeah, that's about it. I just don't know.
I'm pretty. I won't even entertain the idea of an FE. That's not even going through my head right there. I am a spherical supporter, and I'm upset that we have to talk about that.
Oh.
but I will say, if we are going to
Yeah.
go with an alternative theory, Mystery Junkie chimed in the chat. I am cool with giant turtle theory.
Giant turtle theory. Damn straight.
I love the idea of a good derpy animal being in charge of everything.
I had David Wise on one of my first interviews, and I used to think Flat Earth was a joke. And then you start going down the rabbit hole, and some of the things that they present, it does make you question things. And I've always had my own curiosity about why Antarctica is so off limits. Like, we can't agree on anything in the fucking world, but for some reason, every country signs off on not letting anyone go to Antarctica. Why is that? I don't know. I don't know if it's because there's a supposed big ice wall. It's like, well, why couldn't you just fly over the damn ice wall? I don't know. Whatever it could be, but I want to know what's at Antarctica. I don't think it's just ice and penguins or whatever the hell's down there. Like, I think there's something else with Antarctica. And everyone's wanting Flat Earth says, oh, it's the extra land, the land beyond the ice wall. So I don't know.
I think we can all. Sorry, Rich. Go ahead.
Here's the thing about the what you said about there are people who will make those points. If you don't want to believe the Earth is flat, don't go down the YouTube rabbit hole. There are some very convincing people out there, and they will make you question everything. But when it comes to the Antarctica thing, the reason I think most of the superpowers can agree just it's for science only is because there's nothing that we can gain from it financially. If it's, disputed island or something like that, where there's some value to it, yes, that's a little bit different than just the giant ice block. That's my thoughts on those matters.
Yes, I think we can all agree, whether you're flat Earth or globe or whatever, that Antarctica is sus. It's suspicious as to why they're just not letting us go down there, and it's to the point that it's military intervention if you try going down there, which is really crazy. It's like that means then we are prisoners. If you're not allowed to go someplace, doesn't matter. This is a much larger prison, but we should never be restricted to go there. Like they should definitely assign a waiver if it is what they say. If it's just this, if it's all just total ice, and if you're going to die, because of it, they're like, yeah, we're not going to rescue you. You should sign something, say, yep, I give away my, I don't expect any rescues, and see you later. And if you come back, you come back.
They don't do that though for like the northern hemisphere. They don't do it for like Greenland. They don't do it for like the North Pole. For whatever reason, they only do it for the continent of Antarctica. Why is that? Like, Greenland is supposed to be all ice too, but for some reason, I'm pretty sure you can go to Greenland. They don't have it like patrolled where you can't get there.
Yeah.
So
and everybody, like all the major powers, agree on this one treaty. There's no issues. It's like,
that's why I said they can't get along with everything, but they all come to agreement that we don't want anyone going to Antarctica.
Well, there have been some disputes down there. I know that there's a story that we're working on about the only murder that's ever happened down there, and that had to go through quite a few hurdles because it's like, so it was like a Scottish citizen, but it happened on an American base. But then it was technically on like a Russian side of things where it happened. The doctor was, I don't remember the exact things behind it. One of my co-hosts is developing the story, but that whole thing was it's a fun story. I think maybe the podcast Red Web. I think they might have touched on it on an episode. I have to go back and find my notes. But the only thing that makes me less worried about Antarctica is I can go get a job in Antarctica, and I'm a jackass. So I had the opportunity to go out there and work as a firefighter 10-ish years ago. The pay
Really?
was shit. Pay was absolute garbage compared to other federal contracts that are out there where you go 4 months, 5 months, 6 months at a time. Yeah, pay was garbage, and they would have let me go do it. So that's the only thing there. Yeah, I can understand why.
You would have expected the pay to be pretty good, some like isolation pay and maybe hazard pay as well.
I will say for a short-ish term contract, it was okay.
Okay.
But when you compare it to like guys who were going to like Iraq or Afghanistan, it was pocket change. So
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I've always
another base on
wondered
there.
the Nazi base. I knew that Hitler had stuff down there and stuff, but I didn't. I'm going to do an episode at some point. I have to find someone that is very well researched on Antarctica, and I want to have them on here and talk about it. Just because I've been asked by multiple people to do an episode about Antarctica because the whole Admiral Byrd thing and everything. There's so many different things. Like, obviously, there's different theories of what's out there. I was like, I have no idea what it is, but it's always been something that's made me question stuff. Just like the other thing I've always wanted to talk about was the fake moon landing. I still to this day don't. Even as a kid, I didn't believe we ever went to the moon. I don't know why. I just never have.
I totally believed we went to the moon, but more and more I'm like, yeah, no, like we didn't go with the shower curtain kind of thing hanging off like that. Where is the crater? That is the biggest thing, is where is the crater of the the propulsion engine when they landed? It should have created a crater and blew away, but it didn't. There was no
How did
crater.
they make the phone call? It was like a FaceTime phone call.
And how did they get the pictures? This is another thing, is how did they get the pictures so fast to publish them in the newspaper before they actually came back? I didn't think they had digital
No.
digital cameras and sent them wirelessly. That's a little sus. Like I and then they lost the technology. Like why are we trying? Yeah, I don't know.
I read somewhere that they destroyed the technology on purpose because they didn't want it to fall into the wrong hands.
So actually, I've got to jump off here in a couple minutes. So the moon landing, the timing of all that it's very curious. So we have JFK, right? We also have Nixon in the background, and this is when we really start seeing the emergence of mass media as a communication, as a medium of communication, right? So we have. Are you familiar with President Taft? By any chance,
really.
anyone? Okay, President Taft.
I'm Canadian.
That's cool. So he was a 300, and this is nothing against large people, but he was a 300-pound bald asshole. And if you put him up against JFK, there's no way he's ever getting close to it, because you think about how the way people nitpicked the way Nixon looked during that election. So made for TV is a real thing right there. So having them shoot, some scenes here or there in the desert, underwater, whatever it is, makes a lot of sense to me. Now, did we make it to the moon? Maybe, maybe not. I like to think we did because I'm a big Buzz Aldrin fan. But did we also lie about the pictures? Probably. So
I feel like they had to get to the moon, quote unquote, before the Soviets did. And if I remember correctly, didn't Kennedy say by the end of the decade or whatever, we're going to go to the moon and some shit? And then conveniently, the summer of 1969, I think it was, we went to the moon.
Yeah.
Like, we only had like a few more months to get there before whatever he said didn't happen. So it was awful convenient. We went to the moon. We've only went there a few different more times. And for some reason, we just completely stopped going and destroyed all the technology.
There's definitely there's definitely some convenient things that have happened with it. I will 100%
So
find that.
even as a kid, I said that why were there no stars in the background? How did we get to the moon, and how long did it take them? And like, how did they launch off of the moon? They claim there's less gravity, so they didn't have to have that much propulsion to leave. I was like, but they weren't floating. Like the dust on the ground wasn't moving when they stepped. There was no gravity. Wouldn't the dust kind of just float a little bit? Like there's just so many questions that you can look at when they're out there. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Like if they had to have a rocket to get off Earth, but they didn't have to have a rocket to get back into space to escape the moon's gravity. Like,
That's a
none of
huge
that-
game too.
you know.
It
So,
is. It is.
There's a lot to that. Like I said, I don't think we actually went to the moon. We may have went to the moon now, but I don't think we went in the 69.
I believe we went to the moon almost another time. I don't believe that it was broadcasted. I believe that we possibly have gone to the moon, but
The magic undies.
So before I hop off here, there's Brandon. Thanks again for having me. Rye, we'll have to get in contact.
for sure, Rich.
We'll connect there. If you want to learn about a different JFK conspiracy, look at how he and RFK worked behind the scenes to make the Cuban Missile Crisis as big as it was. So if you haven't done that, there is some great information there about political maneuvering. So, but anyways, thank you so much for having me. You boys enjoy your night.
Yeah, it was great meeting you. Great meeting you, Rich. Take care.
Let everyone know where they can find you guys at.
Yeah, so we are it's the founding Lore Fathers. We have a very limited social media. You can find us on Facebook. You can find my link here somewhere in the chat. I made a couple comments. I'll leave another one before I go. But yeah, we're on Apple, Spotify, and on Amazon Music. Just type in Founding Lore Fathers and you'll see us. We talk about cryptids. We do some interviews. We talk about some conspiracies. We talk about history. We talk about some modern things. It's a fun show. I enjoy it. I do it with two of my best friends, and it comes out every Monday or Tuesday, depending on when we get around to releasing them. So, again, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to be here.
Yep. Thanks for being on here.
Awesome. Yeah.
There's supposed to be a couple other people that were coming on, but they've never showed up. So it is what it is.
Okay, and you're gonna laugh at this, Brandon. The interview didn't even happen. The interview that I was supposed to have, it didn't happen. And in this, I got the blur on, and I keep like blurring myself, and I'm like, I'm just gonna switch that. It kind of looks good because I don't like the wall and the power lines running in the background, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was supposed to do that interview, and it's gonna happen tomorrow because his mic wasn't working. And he likes to talk. He's a very talkative person. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I gotta go. And half hour later, I'm like, I'm going.
Yeah. No, I've had issues with people from time to time. Like I had one straight up ghost me, and he was wanting to talk about his cryptid encounters. He sent me a whole bunch of information. He sent me photos and everything. I was like, oh, okay. And then come time for the day of the interview, I'd send him a message. Didn't respond. Never read my messages. Until this day, he's never actually looked. Because if you go through Facebook, you can see when someone looks at it, it'll show like they've seen it.
Yep.
He's never opened it. So I was like, but I've seen him on groups posting. So I was like, he didn't die.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming. Like, okay, Bigfoot stole him. Kidnapped by Bigfoot.
The day that he was supposed to be talking to me, like during the time of the interview, I seen him commenting on certain posts. I almost comment on there so you can be on here, but you can't talk to me that you were the one that reached out to me first.
Yeah,
yeah. But I didn't bother. It's not worth it.
Yeah, it's happened a couple times with us where we had a couple of issues where they just don't show up. And I started, I send out a like a PDF kind of thing to all my upcoming guests. And I tell them, like, listen, if you can't make it, okay, I understand, but please give me a little bit of a heads up. Oh, thanks, Rich. Yeah, thanks again, guys. Here's one of our show links. Perfect. Sorry, just reading the comments.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I say that, and then also say there as well to my future guests. I said, would you, like, let me know if you are okay to be called on a short notice in case someone pulls a no show, just in case that I could, bump them up. And some of them have said okay to that. So I think that's decent.
Yeah. Tomorrow I have an interview. It's I've been wanting to go down this rabbit hole for a while. And anyone out there listening, if you follow the podcast, it'll come out in a couple months just because of how my backlog looks. But diving into the Rothschilds. So if I come up missing, we know what happened.
Exactly. There's just a bunch of scheduled podcasts, and there's no more lives, no more talking or anything, and Brandon's gone, and yeah.
The podcast will still go on for a couple because I've got all these stuff already uploaded. So you might have like a couple more months of content, but once that one gets dropped, you might never.
Yeah, it's like,
if I just
where did he
completely
go?
disappear, you guys know what happened.
Speaking of Bigfoot, I actually have a theory that it came to me a couple of weeks ago when I was listening to a couple of other podcasts like PRT and just a couple other podcasts. One of the things that always seems to happen with Bigfoot is if Bigfoot follows or is Bigfoot near someone's property, what happens is the slapping of houses. Okay, so this seems to be something that is very common. If Bigfoot's on your property, he's slapping your house. And I had my next guest, Ernie. He on the Lost Frequency still. He talks about face to face with a Bigfoot, which was communicating with him like almost sign language. And he says it was kind of like very Native American-ish kind of communication, like pointing, you, me, equal. Which that kind of tied in with my theory that perhaps this house slapping is, and I don't know if you've heard of counting coup or counting coup. Have you heard of that before?
I've heard of it, but I don't know what it means.
Okay, so what it is a native brave from one tribe would go count coup on another tribe, like one that they're warring with. But what it was is you're not going there to kill or hurt anybody. You're going to show them that you're the better warrior, that you can sneak into their camp, do something, and get out without being caught or even noticed. So, maybe they'll leave something there to show that they were there, or take something of theirs. And that is to show that to your enemy that you have one up them. You are better than them. You are, you're the better warrior, and you've just beat them. That is what I believe this house slapping is actually. It's kind of like this house slap. And whenever people go out to go look, there's nothing in sight. There's nothing. So it's them kind of showing you that I'm the better warrior. I'm the stealthier warrior. I'm in and I'm out, and you can't catch me. And it's kind of like of course, like a warning, but it's showing you that I'm the better one. And it kind of fits into the narrative, in my opinion.
I can see that. I've heard people on other podcasts too. They've said stuff like Bigfoot, like it's almost silent, like it tries to communicate with them. And even primates, like even gorillas, or they have ways of communicating now. Like I think whatever her name is, that one that didn't they teach her sign language?
Yeah. Yes.
I can't think whatever her name is.
Yeah.
If they can teach a primate, a great ape, how to communicate, if these things are of that nature, wouldn't they be able to communicate too? So it makes sense to me. Like,
of course, especially if they, and I'm kind of in no camp. I'm going to say I'm in no camp because I know there's two camps. There's the woo camp, and then there's the flesh and blood. I would say I don't know, because I truly don't know. I leaning more to the woo side because I've heard so many stories of stuff that's happened, but I don't know. But if they've been interacting with native tribes for years prior, and now they're a little more scared of man, with all our technological advancements, whether it be guns and whatnot, but would they have not had to have a way to communicate? sign language, pointing is probably one of the oldest forms of communication, is like, me hungry, me, I can't hear you. If I do that, I don't care what language I'm doing that in, to someone who doesn't speak English, or someone's, maybe they speak Cantonese or something. If I'm like, if I do that, it means I can't hear you, I'm hungry, we have these hand signals and they're universal. So perhaps, they had a way of communicating with the native tribes, and it's just been passed down from generation to generation.
When it comes to cryptids, I kind of like you. I don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
A lot of them I'm skeptical about, just because I don't know if something like this could exist. Like, even my own stuff. I don't think, how is it scientifically possible for dogmen? How is it scientifically possible for a Mothman? Which a lot of people, Mothman's not a cryptid. Okay, well, what is it?
Yeah, I have no idea what Mothman is. I think it's some sort of alien, actually, to be honest, but I don't know.
There's so many different, I don't want to sound like a prick, but there's so many different opinions from so-called experts in this field that they all want to spout off all this stuff. I was like, you guys haven't even actually seen anything and have any concrete proof. You're just spitting out opinions.
Yeah.
And basing it off of fact. And then they want to argue, especially Reddit. If you get on Reddit, that's just a straight up, that's a cesspool.
Yeah.
But Reddit is nothing but arguing constantly about what's a cryptid, what's not a cryptid. Like, I was like, you guys are arguing about stuff that you don't even know exists because you've never seen it.
It's true. It totally is true. Like the experts are using eyewitness accounts to try to, and they formulate their opinion on that, but still they end up coming up to their own opinion as well. And some of them exclude opinions because it doesn't fit their narrative or their conscious bias. I think confirmation bias. Oh my gosh, there we go. Confirmation bias. And it's crazy. It's crazy. In reality, I don't think any of us can be experts. We can be well-versed and perhaps even a witness, but until your best friend is Harry and the Hendersons, you don't know. We don't know.
No, that's how I feel about it too. Like, the most recent one, they were arguing about Wendigos. About Wendigos are not cryptids, they're spirit. So it's like, are we really going to start splitting hairs? Like,
yeah, it's true. It is true. I do believe the Wendigo has some sort of spiritual aspect to it, like definitely. But what else? I still think we dub it into the cryptids category, and it's kind of funny because I have like a selection of thumbnails that I have that I use for shows and whatnot, and I have a Wendigo picture which I have in my file of like cryptids. So I guess I kind of dubbed it a cryptid myself.
And then the depiction anymore of the Wendigo, like, there's talking about pale crawlers here. If you go back to the original depictions of what the Native American tribes first said about Wendigos, they were more like humanoid. They weren't the deer-headed, rotting corpse-looking thing. They were more like, they ate their lips off. They were more like, almost, I don't want to call them zombies, but they were almost really skinny, insatiable hunger, had longer hair, like Linky. So when people are talking about seeing rakes and seeing these pale crawlers and everything, I've often wondered, I was like, maybe they're not any different from what the original Wendigos were. Maybe the things that the Wendigos are based off of are the same things that these people are seeing now. Because even in modern times, you've had the Dover demon. I think I was in the 1960s. It almost looked like an alien, but it was like, again, it was a linky little, like, long-armed, crawly-looking thing on the ground on the side of the road highway, and it was crawling, I'm pretty sure. And they called it the Dover demon. It had like this pale skin, bulbous head. Like, to me, it's almost the same descriptions.
So do you believe that they're actually coming from Wendigos, the meth head of the cryptid world? That's awesome.
What Rich had planned, they did an episode on the Hopkinsville Goblins, and we didn't get into that because I had a couple other people, or a lady that came on here to talk. But so maybe the next time I can have him come on, we'll talk about the Hopkinsville goblins. But the whole Kentucky goblin thing, I've often wondered if they're also not similar to the crawlers, and they all run from the cave systems. And if you seem like a lot of activity for these crawlers and other sightings, they seem to be in the woods where there's usually some sort of cave systems. So I wonder if they're not some sort of inner cave working. I'm not. Like
and that makes
there.
sense. That makes sense because they do, and I think someone said that earlier too. Yeah, Bryce was saying that they're possibly from inner Earth. Yeah, I think so because that is definitely something that they look like. You know, it definitely looks like Golem from Lord of the Rings. You know, kind of thing where they just lack of sunlight. And
my third interview, I interviewed somebody named Brandon, and he was from Southern Indiana, and he said he lives right by the Kentucky border, and he was talking about hunting Bigfoot, like he's out searching for Bigfoot. And while he was talking about that, he said him and his family were on a walk through a cemetery, and they seen some sort of golem type looking creature. Instead of golem, I was like, that sounds like a Kentucky goblin. Well, he didn't know what that was, and I was more interested in hearing about that than so much about the Bigfoot and stuff, because like you don't really hear very many Kentucky goblin encounters. But he said it was just in this cemetery, just kind of his whole family seen it just kind of crawling around and just went off. I don't remember if he said there was one or two of them.
That's crazy. And we do have an interview again with the Lost Frequency that's where they talked about these little green aliens actually. So could be kind of like a goblin kind of thing with metal teeth. Have you ever heard of that? Like anything with metal teeth, little green kind of alien or creatures?
No, I haven't heard anything about with metal teeth. I know, is it the Flatwoods monster or something where it almost looked like the alien, but it was in like a floating, it had like this mechanical armor on. It had like this big, not a helmet, but it wore like something around its head.
Really?
Yeah, I think it was called the Flatwoods monster. I'm not 100% sure, but
that almost sounds like the creatures down in Peru, where they're saying that are flying around and
the face peelers.
The face peelers, yeah, something like that. Interesting.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot of things about the face peeler, but then I read something the other day said it's actually just the. I was about to call them the cabal, but not the cabal. Can't think of the term. The
mafia, the narcos.
Yeah, those things. Whatever. I can't think of what they're called. I'm having a complete brain fart. But yeah. Basically, the crime lords smuggling in cocaine and everything.
I'd say narcos then. The narcos.
Yeah.
It could be. So they're just kind of, but some of the things that are happening are pretty supernatural sounding, almost in a way. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What else? What else is new and exciting?
Yeah, he said it.
Yeah, cartel.
I had a complete brain fart. I was like, I was trying to think of. I was like, this. I don't know what it is.
and I should have known that, being here in Mexico, this cartel.
You can't
I'm pretty good where I live. It's kind of away from all that. But that's a big thing here.
Yeah. No, but there's just a lot of weird things, especially even the puckwudgies. They're little humanoid-looking things.
How big are the puckwudgies? Are they like duendes, or are they like? How tall are the puckwudgies? I've heard of this term before, but I don't know too much.
I don't know the exact height.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anyone out there listening does, but I think they're like less than 2 feet.
Okay, this sounds similar then to possibly aluches here in Mexico, and it's kind of funny because there's so many similarities between these things. Like let's say like a leprechaun and an aluche. An aluche is about 2 feet.
Mm-hmm.
They're usually naked looking little cherub kind of thing. Like they're like a kid, but like pudgy and whatnot, and they are said to be elementals, but also could be homunculuses, where they're created by 9 nights of bloodletting onto them, like with using blood and corn to create these things out of clay. And then you put your intentions on them, and then after 9 nights they come to life, and they're to protect your land and your family. That's kind of like the goal of these things here in Mexico. And let me tell you, everybody I don't want to say everybody, but we'll say a lot of people have stories of Aleutians. Like even my brother-in-law tells me stories of about Aleutians. My father-in-law, he has some land, and the guy that works on it, he's the one who told me that he's seen them. You know, it's crazy.
No, I don't. Like I've said before, there's an episode coming out here about them too. I've got a couple different Pukwudgie episodes coming out.
Cool.
But where I live, there's Mound State Park about an hour away. And there's been a lot of sightings apparently there of these little humanoid creature Pukwudgie things at this park.
Okay.
So I'm curious to go there. So I've been there before, but I didn't know the history up until recently. So I'm curious to go back and to see if there's anything strange. And then
I think that would be fantastic. I think that'd be super interesting.
there's a place, it's the old battlefield where they do the reenactment out there. And when I was in high school, we always called it Hobbit Land. Well, the reason it was called Hobbit Land, someone swore he saw little humans running around out there. I was like, now that I'm thinking about it, I was like, we called them hobbits in high school. But I was like, I wonder if it wasn't actually like people were seeing Pukwudgie stuff.
Really interesting. Yeah, exactly. They call them hobbits because that's what you know. So you're making this, you're making a characterization by something that you kind of know, even though it's on a movie. Interesting.
Yeah, because that was right around Lord of the Ring time when I graduated school. So that would have been 20 plus years ago. But no, that was
really.
That would have been.
Is it been the? Oh wow.
I graduated in 2002, so it's been going on 22 years. It's craziness.
That is crazy. I can't believe Lord of the Rings was over 20 years ago. I was like, I was actually living in New Zealand. I almost lived there for a year, and yeah, I forget which one was coming out, but at that time, that's interesting.
I'll chase a Pukwudgie, and if I catch one, I'm gonna punt it. We'll see what happens if you punt a Pukwudgie.
It's good. Yes. No, that's awesome.
I've been wanting to go and do a lot of different things. I've actually thought about going out and filming stuff and like making little, not so much documentaries, but making like little videos and stuff just to include. But that takes more time and effort, and I'm already struggling to find the time to do podcasting and still work full job and be full-time dad. So.
Right. I'm in the same boat. I'm totally in the same boat.
So for anyone out there that's still watching and listening, it's not an easy gig. Everyone's, you just turn on a camera and you start talking. No, you have to plan the shit. This was completely unplanned. This was spur of the moment. So anyone watching I appreciate it, because this was not this was not anything I had planned out. Hopefully, if I start doing this more often, I'll have them on a schedule so more people can know, not last minute.
I can totally relate. Like, I had 2 weeks to set up this whole new podcast and then start scheduling and everything. It was a lot of work, and well, it is a lot of work, and I've got everything where I want it to be. So now I got to work on the scheduling, and yeah, it is. You're scheduling, trying to work around your own schedule and work around their schedule. And then how much more content can you do? I want to do this as well. I want to do this. And it's a lot of work. It is. And then we have to edit but hey, it's the name of the game. It is what it is.
Yeah. Again, next time I'm going to try and be a little bit more proactive. I posted it in a bunch of different groups. I don't think anyone ever goes to groups and pays attention half the time when someone posts things.
Facebook, a lot of things get lost in Facebook now. It's just like gone, and it's.
I put it on Instagram. I put it on X, and I even put it on whatever the different Instagram thing's called. I can't think what it's called.
I have no idea. I barely use Instagram.
I was gonna call it Reels, but it's not Reels. It's something else. But
yeah, what is Reels? Is Reels Facebook? So I would assume Instagram is Reels as well, but wouldn't it just kind of carry over because they're the same?
Threads.
Oh.
There's Threads. It's like a different Instagram thing.
Yeah.
There's like, I post things and like there's nothing. It's like it just gets lost in the void.
And then Yeah, and when you do on Facebook and you do when you at everyone, you piss them all off. And anybody who's ever added me, like the at everyone, I always like unfollow that group. And I'm like, I never want to be done that again. And then there's me just doing it recently for the Lost Frequency podcast group, Facebook group. I've been adding everyone because I'm like, I'm ending this anyhow. We're ending this this Facebook group anyhow, so I'll piss people off. But hey, everybody, come check out my YouTube channel.
I don't do a whole lot of promoting as it is, so everything's just kind of grassroots. And I think my Facebook group that I made in the summer's got like 50 people, but I don't try and add people. I don't market it. I don't do anything with it. Like,
Yeah,
I'm just
it's Facebook. The Facebook group, I really don't think does much. It's just kind of like interaction. That's all it is with the existing people who are there. That's it.
you know, the YouTube's been growing on its own, the listener base and everything. I see all the statistics from that. It's grown quite a bit. For some reason on Saturday, I don't know what happened, but I had almost like 600 downloads in one day, which is
Nice. That is awesome.
it's a decent amount for one day, more than normal. Like if I release a new episode, it usually about 400. I didn't release anything, and I had like 600, almost 600 downloads in one day. I'm like, the hell went on Saturday? But something happened on Saturday. Everyone started looking at the podcast, and then like the next day, it was just dropped back down to about normal. I was like, oh, okay.
It's so strange why it does that. We had done one with Daryl Denton when he was telling us about his some Bigfoot encounters, and then also seeing a dog man come through a portal. And the live itself was good, but it was like a week later, all of a sudden on the weekend, it just took off. Where it was like, how did this happen? And then it died off. And then the next weekend, again, it did the same thing. So maybe watch next weekend. You might actually get like another like splurge of downloads again. It was really strange.
Yeah. So the YouTube views on certain videos, I get a lot on Dogman stuff. So I think a lot of the listeners enjoy the Dogman stuff.
Oh,
But
yes.
it's hard to find people that actually want to come on and talk about Dogman encounters. So
I agreed. I'm trying to get Martin Groves. I want to get Martin Groves on to talk about his encounter because that one was Dogman, Bigfoot, kind of a little bit of everything. It crazy.
I've wanted to talk to Martin. And I've said it before, and it's not that I don't believe his story, but I do have questions about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love just to pick his brain because I've seen something that someone says that Martin's full of crap because there was no police reports. Like, well, again, that goes back to the LBL thing earlier that we talked about. Like, the original guy that came out with the LBL said he survived the whole family being massacred. There was no reports about that either. But if they don't want information out, there's not going to be able to access reports. Like, there's a way of making information not be there. Like,
well, also is kind of are you going to fill out a police report? Are you going to be thought of like as this crazy? Like the one guy that I had interviewed coming up on the Lost Frequency there, it was a he wasn't police, but he was campus police. And they were like, yeah, we should, they actually said, okay, we're going to write this up. And they were laughed at and told, don't do that. And that's the kind of attitude. Whereas I think now things are becoming more and more accepted. But yeah, I don't bat an eye if they're like, if there's like, oh, there's no police report. Okay. Yeah. I can understand that. I can totally understand that. Maybe now there's a better chance that there being actual police report because this is becoming more and more mainstream. I don't want to say mainstream. I hate that, but it's becoming more and more commonplace.
No, I think what they were talking about with Martin's story, though, is the guy said the fireman or whatever it was that got killed. They said there was never any reports of anyone being killed.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Of that, of them getting torn apart and whatnot. Interesting.
My book.
Awesome.
I learned a valuable lesson too that I'm not a great author, so I've been getting some
feedback.
I've been getting some very low ratings on Amazon lately.
Oh shit!
I don't care.
I'm actually in the process of writing semi-fiction, non-fiction book. So, well, mini ebooks actually is what I'm trying to bring out, a series of mini ebooks that are based on because I have the craziest of craziest dreams, and I swear to God that they're real, just happening in another life, another dimension, past life, something in the future, something in the past, all the above. And so it's kind of like loosely based on my life, and there's like the dream aspect, which I say is real in the book, kind of thing. So uh, I started it. I put it on the it's catching picking up a lot of dust because the podcast kind of stole all my time. But I want to get back to that as well.
I mean, I won't call them the Karens, but they bought it, so I got like a little bit of that percentage. So
Fair enough. Yeah.
fair enough. They don't have to like it, but I got your 2 cents.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's another rabbit hole in itself of how much money you don't actually make off stuff.
I have done in the past some Kindle direct publishing.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't really make much money at all.
No. I got it called a grifter not long ago because they're like, "Oh, you're making all this money off your podcast." Like, do you realize that I've spent more money than I've ever made on this podcast? Like, I didn't even like monetize until like 2 months ago, and I'm barely breaking even. Like, so for over a year, I was basically spending like $70 a month just to do a podcast. But
It's expensive. I am trying to make a podcast as cheap as possible, but it's without making it look cheap. If that's the way to do it, it's kind of you got to put money in. You have to. And yeah, I just bought a new webcam because mine was terrible. And I'm like, you know what? If I want to try to put out at least a half decent product, I got to have at least a half decent webcam as well. So
yeah, that's what I've done. I actually just went Saturday and upgraded cables, and I didn't realize that I was going to spend $100 on 2 cables.
Wow.
Or a 2-foot and a 6-foot. But the ones I bought were cheaper, and I kept hearing a clicking in my headset. I was like, all right. So I looked up the best ones that they have for recording, like audio or whatever, and there was this Mogami brand or something like that.
I've not heard of that.
And they're gold plated. So
okay.
So far, it's supposed to be the best signal enhancing cables that they have, according to the reviews. So we'll see.
You got the Cadillac cables.
Yeah. Being a band person, I knew you want higher end stuff, but I didn't really think much about the cables in general. But I was like, I'm tired of hearing this almost like someone hitting like a hi-hat constantly. It's like, even when I talk with you guys, I kept hearing it, and I just ignore it because I couldn't figure out what it was. And it's not doing it now, so I think I fixed the problem.
Well, that was a good investment then.
No. So, well, I planned on kind of wrapping this up about this time, so
perfect. Yeah, because I was just about to say I'm beat. I got to get up early, and I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I post my my link to my channel in the chat?
Go ahead and let everyone know where they can find you.
Yeah. Hopefully it comes through. So Codega's Codex of Curiosities. It's my new channel. I don't have any of this new content yet. It's being made as we speak. I'm still Tom and I are both kind of like we split, but we're both still releasing the exact same content of the Lost Frequency on each of our own channels.
Yeah.
So you'll see a couple more shows from there coming up. But I should be releasing, like I said, it'll probably be on the 20th. I'll be dropping my first audio episode, but the video will be coming out on the Thursday, which will be the 25th. I think that'll be or not the 25th. I'm horrible. 22nd. It'll be on your birthday. Yeah, I'll be dropping it on your birthday. Yeah, so February 22nd, I'll be dropping the video. Audio is going to be coming out on Tuesdays, and that will be. And if you like Dogman, of course, I'm having Matt Emch on. He's done the circuit a lot. But I'm not going to be actually going much into his Dogman because he's done that with so many other people. So I've decided to go a different route with him and stay posted for that.
Yep. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brandon.
Yep. You have a good night. Thanks for coming on here and talking with me.
You too. You too. Thanks, man.
Yep. See ya.
There we go.
Well, everyone, if you're still watching, appreciate you guys for sticking around. I might do this more often if everyone else would like for me to. I might try and pick a specific day, maybe a Tuesday or something, Tuesday or Thursday, and designate it a live stream night. Won't be anytime soon. It'll probably be in the next couple of weeks, but you guys can let me know if you enjoyed it. If anyone wants to be on an episode of Tinfoil Tales, you can reach out to me. You can send an email to tinfoiltalespodcast@gmail.com or go to tinfoiltales.com and you can hit the contact button, whatever works. But again, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for watching. And again, leave some feedback if you would like more live stream episodes. If anyone wants to come on and talk on the live stream, just again, give me a holler and we'll get something figured out. But I want to say thanks again to everyone for sticking around and watching tonight. Good night, everyone.